Those brothers finished from Salah requested to come closer. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. The purpose of this session is not to do a long detailed bayan. These are just few ideas which I'd like to share with yourselves so that inshallah for myself and for you as well we can have some practical steps in how to start getting ourselves prepared for the month of Ramadan before the month of Ramadan actually dawns upon us. Because like we've heard before, when we face anything big, any challenge or anything important, we must be prepared for that thing. Because if we enter the month of Ramadan, just like a normal day, we wait until the first taraweeh and the i'lan is made, and then we enter the month of Ramadan, then it'll take us 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days to get into rhythm. And when we're in fifth gear and we're flying in the month of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan will come to an end. So we wasted 10, 15 days of those blessed days in accumulating rewards. Therefore, like we've heard many a times, we heard on Friday as well, that the preparation for the month of Ramadan, it starts very early. And if we've not started by now, then at least from now, okay, Shab Barat is only a couple of days away, and then there's only 2 weeks left and the month of Ramadan will start. So if we've not made any preparations, then it's still not very late. We have until now, we have these 2 weeks until the month of Ramadan for getting into gear for the month of Ramadan. First thing I'd like to share is we need to understand the objective of the month of Ramadan. Because if we fail in understanding the objective of the month of Ramadan, then the whole month will go by, or many, many years. Year in, year out, the month of Ramadan comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. If we fail to understand why Ramadan comes, why Allah Ta'ala gives us Ramadan, why Allah Ta'ala ordains fasting upon us, we fail to understand that, what's going to happen, like every year, it's going to be a routine where we're going to fast in the morning and then break our fast at iftar, we're going to come for taraweeh, go back, and this is how we're going to spend our entire Ramadan. We need to understand that the maqsad of Ramadan is not the fast. मकसद रोज़ा रखना नहीं है, मकसद भूखा रखना नहीं है. एक हदीस में अल्लाह के नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम इरशाद फरमाते हैं कि अगर कोई आदमी सही तौर पर रोज़ा नहीं रखता है फ़लैसा लिल्लाहि हाजतुन फ़ी अन यदअ तआमहु व शराबह, अल्लाह ताला को कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है कि वो अपने खाने पीने से दूर रहे. अल्लाह को क्या मिलेगा? आदमी भूखा रहता है, प्यासा रहता है, तो अल्लाह ताला को तो कोई चीज़ नहीं मिलेगी, अल्लाह को तो कोई फ़ायदा नहीं मिलेगा. तो इस हदीस का मतलब ये है कि भूखा रखना और प्यासा रखना मकसद नहीं है. The objective is not to starve us, and the objective is not to keep us away from water or drink. These are just means. Fasting is a means to obtain something else. Let's take another example. Our objective is to reach London. Our objective is to reach London. The mode of transport which we use, that is the means to get to London. And the objective and the goal is to reach London itself. So it doesn't really matter, let's say a person's got a meeting in London. So it doesn't really matter if he's drove to London or if he's taken a train to London. The purpose is to reach London. Now if a person makes the drive to London the objective, and he thinks, I've had a nice drive, I've reached London, now let me go back, then he's not attained anything. Because it doesn't matter how you get there, it's about reaching London and getting your meeting done. That's your goal. The means is just a way to obtain your objective. So we need to very carefully understand the difference between whatever is wasila, means, and whatever is maqsad, objective. What we do is we take wasila to be the objective, we take the means to be the objective, and then when we've achieved the means, we think we're successful. So coming back to Ramadan, many a times, we think that fasting is the objective. Roza maqsad hai, roza rakh liya kamyab. No, my dear respected friends. Fasting is a means, it's a wasila. The objective is mentioned in the glorious Quran, which we hear time and time again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the glorious Quran, Kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. La'allakum tattaqun is your objective. That Allah ta'ala has made fasting farz upon you throughout the entire month, and the objective of that fasting is la'allakum tattaqun, so that you may obtain taqwa. So this is the objective, this is the end goal, this is the end result. That through the means of fasting, we want to reach our goal of attaining taqwa. Now the next question is, what is taqwa? Many a times we hear translations of taqwa. Okay, what's the famous translation of taqwa? What do people normally translate taqwa as with? The fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Generally, this is the famous translation of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this also isn't exactly the accurate understanding of taqwa. Why? Because when you say fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fear can mean two things, can it? Fear can very easily mean when you're scared of something. So the fear of, for example, a lion, the fear of a dog, the fear of an enemy. This is one type of fear. So when you say fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what could happen is someone could think that you're meant to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just like you fear a lion. However, the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not this kind of fear. Taqwa is not this kind of fear. Rather, it's a different type of fear. And this fear, taqwa, is that fear which is created from love. For example, the fear a son has from his father, the fear a student has from his teacher, the fear a friend has from another friend. So he doesn't fear his friend like he fears a lion, he doesn't fear his father like he fears an enemy, but he fears the displeasure of his father. He's scared that if I do something wrong, if I say something wrong, my friend is going to become upset with me. My teacher is going to become upset with me. My father is going to become upset with me. So this is the fear which, when it is translated as taqwa, fear, this is the fear which is referring to. Meaning the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be such, we should be so wary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we fear displeasing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in simple terms, taqwa is to create a barrier between us and the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Creating a barrier between us and sin. This is taqwa. So if you have the temptation to sin and you've not carried out that sin, you've done taqwa. You've got taqwa. You have the quality of taqwa. So if we understand it in this manner, then it's much more easier to now understand the goal of Ramadan. The goal of Ramadan is to create that barrier between us and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How is this obtained? Very simply, fasting keeps us away from our food and drink which is halal. So if we are training ourselves 30 days, every single day for 30 days, day in, day out, for one whole month, what are we training ourselves? We're training ourselves to say no. To say no to food. You're hungry at lunchtime, but you can't. You can't eat. You're thirsty, but you can't drink. We are training ourselves to say no. So this is training ourselves that just as you can stay away from all these things which are halal. Food is halal, water is halal, drink is halal. You're training yourself to stay away from all these things which are halal, and you can do it. Similarly, you need to start telling yourself to say no to all those things which are guna. To all those things which are sin, all those things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram upon you, you need to now train yourself to say no to all these things. This is the objective of Ramadan. So now we should keep this at the forefront of our minds. That when I'm entering into Ramadan, every single day when that urge in the month of Ramadan comes to eat, comes to drink, and then we feel ourselves saying no because it's still not iftar time yet, we need to remember at the same time, like this, I need to stay away from all those things which are haram. All those things which are forbidden, I need to train myself to stay away from all those things also. Now, from now until Ramadan, on Friday we discuss one thing we can do, getting into gear for Ramadan, is fasting. Why? You train your body to fast so that the fasts of Ramadan are perfect. One thing I'd like to add to that is that if we have any qada fasts, then we should try to carry them out before the next Ramadan comes. तो अगर हमारे ज़िम्मे कोई क़ज़ा रोज़े हैं तो आइंदा रमज़ान के आने से पहले उन क़ज़ा रोज़ों से फारिग हो जाना चाहिए. ये अच्छा नहीं है कि आपके ज़िम्मे क़ज़ा रोज़े हों और आप दूसरा रमज़ान शुरू कर दें. So this generally applies to women. So women who are listening, they need to be very, very punctual about their qada fasts. So make sure you finished all your qada fasts from the last year, from the previous years, due to menstruation, due to breastfeeding, due to pregnancy. If you've missed any fasts, then you try to complete them before the next Ramadan. Try to start every Ramadan with a new slate, with a fresh slate. Secondly, how we need to train ourselves for the coming of Ramadan is now getting ourselves accustomed to the tilawah of the glorious Quran. Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. The month of Ramadan is the month of Quran. When you start speaking to someone who you're not familiar with, let's say you've met up with someone who you're not familiar with, then the maximum you're going to do is salam, how are you, and that's it. It's going to be hard to start a conversation with someone you're not familiar with. Similarly, if we are not accustomed to the tilawah of the glorious Quran, we've not made the Quran our companion, then what's going to happen? It's going to take a week to get used to tilawah. Because in the month of Ramadan, we're going to do excessive tilawah. So it's going to take a couple of days, 1 week, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days to get into a rhythm of praying loads of Quran. So if we want to get into the habit of praying excessive Quran, then we must start from now. Pick up the Quran, set 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. Pick a time in the day when you have this much amount of time and start getting accustomed to the glorious Quran. Why can the Huffaz pray Quran much more easier than the non-Huffaz? Because they pray the Quran more. They've done more of it many times, hundreds and thousands of times they've prayed the same ayah. So it's easier for them to do tilawah. So the same manner, if we want to become accustomed to praying more Quran, then the more we familiarize ourselves with the Quran, then that's how much easier the recitation of the Quran will be for us when the month of Ramadan starts. Not wasting days in the month of Ramadan getting accustomed to the glorious Quran. Then we hear as an inspiration of many, many different people, past and present, who complete many, many khatams of the Quran. They recite loads of Quran in the month of Ramadan. How is it possible? Because they started early on. They didn't start in the month of Ramadan. They made this habit early on, so they become so used to it that in the month of Ramadan, they were flying with the recitation of the Quran. One example, just a few examples on the top of my head. Imam Abu Hanifa, our Imam Rahimahullah, he used to recite one Quran during the day in the month of Ramadan, meaning from morning until night he used to finish one Quran, and then at night in tahajjud, etc., in one night he used to complete another full Quran. So one Quran during the day, one Quran during the night. So likewise he would finish 60 khatams of the glorious Quran in the month of Ramadan. And similar narrations have been narrated about Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, 30 Qurans in the day and 30 Qurans at night. 60 khatams of the glorious Quran. Similarly, another tabi'i, Mansur ibn Zadan rahimahullah, he was a companion of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. He used to, similar thing, from, if I remember correctly, Zohar until Maghrib, he would complete one Quran, and then Maghrib until Fajr the next day he would complete another Quran. So how would they do this? How was this possible? Because they trained themselves to read Quran before the month of Ramadan, so it was easier for them when the month of Ramadan settled. And we think all these things are not possible and used to happen before. Until today there are people, we have seen and witnessed people who still recite one full Quran every single day in the month of Ramadan. Until now. Every single Ramadan, they are able to finish one khatam of the Quran every single day. So this is still possible and it still happens. It's a miracle of the Quran, and we can also become witnesses of this miracle of the Quran, but we need to get ourselves accustomed to the tilawah of the Quran, and then we will see the wonders of the glorious Quran. Thirdly, getting accustomed to tahajjud salah from now. The month of Ramadan is all about tahajjud. We do not want a single night in the month of Ramadan where we have not prayed tahajjud. Many of us, throughout the year, we're negligent from this great amal, from this great sunnah. So we must make it our goal from now that I do not want to miss one single tahajjud in the month of Ramadan at its preferred time. Okay, because you can pray tahajjud from any time after Isha until Fajr. However, we want to pray our tahajjud salah at the prime time, which is the last few moments before Subh Sadiq. So we need to prepare ourselves from now. If the practice means we start reading after Isha, we start reading after Isha. Try waking up slowly as the month of Ramadan approaches, try to wake up earlier. And then when it comes to the month of Ramadan, then we allocate time for Sahri as well. And then we make sure either before Sahri or after Sahri, we allocate at least 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes for some quality tahajjud and some from quality dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tahajjud as well and dua as well. And then we will see the fruit of that during the day, where our du'as are accepted, the barakah of the tahajjud, we will see in our lives. So if we are not punctual throughout the whole year, then at least in the month of Ramadan, we must be punctual with our tahajjud salah. Also, it goes without saying that the taraweeh salah. We should look forward to the taraweeh salah, and we should look for the best possible taraweeh. We should not look for the fastest taraweeh, we should look for the most quality taraweeh. And we should recite the Quran. If we are huffaz, then we should recite the Quran ourselves. And if we are non-huffaz, then we should choose the best possible taraweeh where I can enjoy my Quran and where I can listen to the Quran being recited correctly. Why? Because in taraweeh we get a chance to listen to the entire Quran from Alif Lam Mim until Wan Nas. So this is our chance during the year to listen to the Quran exactly how it should be recited. So try to pick the best possible taraweeh for you, with you can recite and listen to the Quran with the best possible tajweed, and you can do tadabbur, you can reflect upon the glorious Quran, and then you will also see a love being created in your heart for the glorious Quran. And taraweeh salah, we should be very punctual with taraweeh salah. Many times we see people that they sit around and they wait for the imam to go into ruku and then they join that rakat. So they've prayed 20 rakats because they've joined the imam in ruku. But then what about the Quran that's been recited? Let's say for example, the imam recited 2 sides in that first rakat, and you sat until ruku, you joined the salah in the ruku, you've missed those 2 sides of the Quran. So when the Quran is being completed, everyone's done a completion of the Quran, but your Quran is incomplete because you weren't in salah for those 2 sides of the Quran that were recited. And if this is happening daily, then there's a large chunk of the Quran which you've not recited. So we should be very punctual, look forward to taraweeh salah and join taraweeh salah from the very beginning, making sure we're not missing out on any of the taraweeh salah. Charity also in the month of Ramadan, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he was ajwadun nas. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was the most generous of people. And wakana ajwada ma yakunu fi Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan his generosity would increase. Again, we need to start building this habit and making plans from now. Which charity are we going to give to? How much are we going to give to? Many people will be discharging their zakah in the month of Ramadan. Start making plans from now that am I going to give to this charity, that charity. Many people will be coming into the month of Ramadan. There'll be a different charity during the day. There'll be a different charity in Taraweeh Salah. Try to spread your donation to everyone. So for example, if you have zakat, let's say for example you have 60 pounds of zakat. Okay, so you know there's going to be 60 charities coming in the month of Ramadan. So try to allocate £1 to every single charity so that your money goes into many different avenues. And every type of dini activity that's taking place all around the world, many different people come with many different projects. Your pound is going into every single project and that you're benefiting them. And even from now, charity starts from now. We see projects like the iftar kits, a very good initiative where we are contributing £35. And what this £35 does, it buys the essentials, oil, rice, etc., flour for a poor family in all those countries which we are collecting for, and this iftar kit for £35 or £40, it can provide the staple food and the essentials for iftar for a poor family for most of Ramadan. If not half of Ramadan, then at least 20-25 days. And we know Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the first hadith in Fazail Amal, in Fazail Ramadan, is Man fattara sa'iman. Whoever makes a fasting person, whoever makes him break his fast, जो उसके लिए इफ्तारी का इंतज़ाम करता है, तो उसको उसका भी पूरा रोज़े का अजर उसको मुफ्त में मिल जाएगा. His entire fast he's kept, or the whole family they've kept fast. You've donated £35 towards that iftar kit. They'll be doing iftari with your money. You will be rewarded not only for your fast, you'll be rewarded for all those poor families that break their fast. So charity, again, it starts from now. And lastly, the last point I want to make is start listening or reading something which will help you prepare for Ramadan. So the best book, okay, is Fazail Ramzan. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullahi alayhi has, all those ahadith with regards to the virtues of Ramadan. He has compiled them all in one place with beautiful commentary. So it's available in English, it's available in Urdu. So we should try to read Fazail Ramzan, do ta'aleem in our homes. We do ta'aleem in the masjid. We should also try to do ta'aleem of Fazail Ramzan in our homes. You will see the shock of Ramadan being created. You will see all those different virtues which Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullahi alayhi has compiled, and which he gives commentary on about the month of Ramadan, which makes you anticipate the month of Ramadan even more. So we should try to bring these habits from now. We should try making our mindset, making our family's mindset, okay, as long as with the other preparations we do for Ramadan, we should also have a spiritual preparation for the month of Ramadan. And if we keep these things in mind, if we bring these things into practice, then inshallah we will see that when the month of Ramadan comes, then this Ramadan will be different to the past Ramadans. This Ramadan will be more fruitful and it'll have more blessings, and we'll actually feel as though we've done something. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the tawfiq to practice upon whatever has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.